As Vancouver readies itself for the cold nights of the upcoming winter, our most vulnerable communities search for warm places to sleep. The downtown east side is home to many people experiencing homelessness, but for youths and teenagers, the streets feel especially cold. Advocates say that for unhoused residents younger than 25, housing resources are lacking. They're overrepresented on the street, with a higher unsheltered rate than any other age group per the 2025 homeless count. The numbers show that for every youth in a shelter, another one goes without. This is a stark statistic. It's more than just a number. It represents people experiencing trauma in their formative years. Scout Marine works for the Covenant House. He sees the impact it has on youth every single day. Marine's job is harm reduction in their low barrier shelter, which means addicts are able to get a clean supply to prevent painful withdrawals in their clean white rooms. He checks on them every 18 minutes with naloxone in hand. He also accepts or turns away applications from young adults seeking shelter. His job takes a toll on him. Regardless of how he feels when he gets home, he reminds himself he's serving his community. I reached out to him to get a better understanding of what he does and what unhoused youth are facing.
Yeah. Okay. So the biggest barrier that we tend to see is age. A lot of shelters are pretty age specific, whether it be children who are too young to get into specific shelters or aging out of programs and then having to kind of transition into going into adult shelters, which a lot of them tend to not want to do, which is fair enough. It's a very different vibe for sure. So from that, the age barrier to a lack of proper identification, because everywhere you go is going to require some form of ID, whether it be like a BCID, a services card, a passport, just like anything that's kind of like that. Not everyone has access to those things, especially depending on their age or whatever the circumstances might be, that they just don't have them or the ability to get them. I mentioned before, like, not having access to a birth certificate is a huge issue. Like, you need your birth certificate to get basically any kind of ID. They want to know who you are. And if you don't have access to that, and that's not an easy thing to get for a lot of people, you're kind of like screwed over in the long run when it comes to getting other things that you need. And where ID is such an important thing to have in order to get into these shelters, you're just kind of like, you're out of luck if that's the case. We do have a lot of youth who are from immigrant families or in the process of immigrating themselves, and they don't always have everything. It leads to a whole other subsect of issues for them outside of just shelters. But things like that. It's just kind of government barriers almost in a way, because that's just the way that a lot of these shelters are run. But even the private ones tend to require those too, and those are pretty big things. There's also the barrier of just inaccessibility, whether it be the location. Maybe it is an accessible location, but it's in an area of town that youth don't want to be in, which is also so fair and valid. It could be this youth might be in a relationship and the shelter doesn't accept couples. That's one that I'm recently seeing quite up close and personal, and a pretty big one. There are some shelters that do, but not all of them do. And when you mix that in with all the other things that can make something inaccessible, it just makes it so much harder to find a spot for these people.
So if these kids can't find a spot, where exactly do they go?
The street. They sleep on the street. I don't know, when it comes to like emergency overnight shelters, there are a lot of them in Vancouver. Some of them aren't open yet. Some of them are in the process of opening, but they're hard to get into. I do not know if they have the same barriers when it comes to requirements for IDs. I think they do, because they do tend to still have like age barriers, so I would assume that you still need an ID. So while I'd like to say, oh, they're going to just an overnight like emergency shelter, they're probably not. Usually they end up on the streets. If they are lucky enough to have any kind of friends or family that they can go stay with, sometimes that's an option. Usually that's not the case either, or else these kids would not be in the position that they're in. So it just kind of ends up being the streets. Sadly, they're just on the streets. They're sleeping in alleyways or on sidewalks or just anywhere that might feel somewhat safe, but it's kind of nowhere. So when you're out there like that.
What's it like for you having to turn someone away from care because they simply don't have the identification or their age just doesn't line up with the shelter that you're in?
It's a miserable feeling. It doesn't feel good. We have like youth who even like they were in our program prior, but they've aged out. And like this was a kind of similar in terms of like now we're sending you on your way. And sometimes these youth can be their own worst enemies because they don't want to leave our programs or where they already feel safe and comfortable. So they will turn to the streets instead of going into adult programs because they just aren't ready for it yet. And that's also a miserable feeling. But like when there's like genuinely nothing you can do, and you just kind of have to like bite the bullet on that one and then go home and cry about it later. But like turning youth away, it's never a good feeling. Usually it comes with like trying to find other resources for them, like maybe other shelters that might be able to take them. But when when the barrier itself is not having the proper identification, there really is nothing you can do except for hope that you can help them find that identification or access it somehow. I'm trying to think of the proper term for it, like an ID clinic, I think would be it. It's usually, those are things that exist where you can go and they will help you like gain access to your birth certificate and like all of that other stuff. But sometimes that's not an option for everyone for whatever reason. I don't know. I've never had to use one. I've always been lucky enough to just kind of be able to get what I need. When my parents sent me on my way, they sent me with a birth certificate, so I carry that in my wallet, which is kind of stupid, but just like I was lucky in that regard. Not everyone is that lucky. So when you have to turn them away and like they don't always understand why they're being turned away, and you can't always give a very solid explanation because there is nothing beyond just like you need to have ID and you don't have ID. And that seems like a small thing, but yeah.
Have you heard any stories or seen firsthand, you've turned someone away and then later you've seen them on the street struggling?
Sort of not turned away for like a lack of identification, rather just like seeing youth who have had issues in the program, and it's been a mixture of like turned away or they made a conscious decision to leave as well. Like, for example, if people break really intense rules that we have in our program, we do tend to put people on, like, breaks. So it could be, like, a one-day break from the program in which you either have to, like, go stay at another shelter for the night or just, like, figure something out. And usually when that's the case, if it's a prolonged break, they might go try and get into another shelter. If it's a short break, they will likely just sleep on the street. And I have seen that where it's, like, they're on their way out with whatever they can carry and a hot meal. And then, like, I can, like, walk past them on my way to the bus stop, like, 5 hours later. And it's like, there's nothing you can do, really. There's pretty strict rules about, like, interacting with people from your shelter, like, when it comes to, like, out in the community. And even if there was anything you could do, it's like they don't want to talk to you. Like, they're upset. So, like, fair enough. They don't want you in their business, and that's, like, completely understandable. But it's not good. Like, it never feels good. If I had it my way, it wouldn't be like that. There would be no turning people away. But that's just kind of not the realistic approach, I think, when it comes to how these things are run, unfortunately.
What can be done? How can we improve the situation?
I think that there needs to be lower barriers, or like access to IDs needs to be like easier. It's even like as somebody who has all of my necessary information. Like when I moved to Vancouver, getting my BCID was a pain in the ass. And I have everything I need. But they need you to have some kind of address. They need you to have a place that they can, like, mail things to. You have to book an appointment. You can't just do walk-ins. Like, it's not overnight. It takes a long time to get your ID. And that in itself is already, like, even to youth who can go and get one, a huge barrier. Like, that's a lot of work that needs to be done for people who aren't always in the right headspace to get that work done. So things like that need to be a lot easier. I think that they should make it more like advocate accessible versus needing to have the person do everything themselves, because not everyone has like the mental capacity to do all of that themselves. But so much of it is required that that's the case. Like, I think while in a perfect world everyone would have access to the information they need, that's not the case. But also in a perfect world, like, the government itself, the province that we live in, would make it easier for people to access what they need, because it's not like they aren't aware that these are the rules in place for the shelters that they fund. Like, they have to know that that's what's going on. And if they say that they want to help fix this problem and get people off the streets, then they need to do their part to fix that problem. Making things more accessible that people need to access shelters would be one of those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there any final emotions you want to touch on that come through this process? Like, when you see a kid out in the street, someone who you've just had to send on their way, what does that do for you emotionally?
Nothing good, really. It never feels good. Yeah, it's always pretty miserable. And having to tell people to leave is also miserable. It's one of those things that just kind of like lives with you, because you don't know if you're going to see them again in a few days, when you're going to see them again. If the next time you hear about them, it's going to be like the VPD showing up, checking in as a missing persons report, or to tell you that they like found their body somewhere. So like it feels like a lot of bad blood to have on your hands when you don't know what the outcome's going to be. So it never feels good. So like the only thing I can hope is that in situations where that arises, that there are better resources out there to point them towards. And sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't. Yeah, and like to anyone who's ever, I don't know, there's a lot of people who work in this field out here in this city, is like, I say this because it's something that's constantly told to me from my friends who also work in this field, is to like, don't beat yourself up about it because you've done all you can do. But that's so much easier said than done, because like there is no point in which you don't beat yourself up about this. Yeah, I don't know. It's never easy. It's never good. It's never a good feeling. It never gets easier.
Despite the hurt he goes through, watching people coping with horrible circumstances, Maureen knows he's saving lives. This was our interview show for The Record. I'm Aiden Singh, and you're listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Gen Z is entering the workforce in a moment where traditional paths seem less certain, and increasingly, young people are choosing to build their own careers from the ground up. Today on BCIT's For the Record, we're looking at what the shift actually looks like in the world of tech and entrepreneurship. My guest Sadra graduated with a computer science degree, but instead of joining an established company, he's launched multiple startups, built a podcast, and now works with AI development while running several income streams at once. His story reflects a growing trend among young workers, creating opportunity instead of waiting for it, and redefining what success looks like in an unpredictable economy. I'm Quinlan Curry, and this is For the Record. Sadra, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you, Quinlan?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. Thank you. So let's get right into it. I know that you studied computer science, but instead of, I guess, taking the typical route into, joining a tech company that's already established, you chose to build your own things. What pulled you towards the entrepreneurial side of computer science?
Yeah, it's a great question. So initially, like from the get-go, I knew I didn't want to do a 9 to 5, like working for someone else and all that good stuff. And one of my aunts, one of them, she has been from the day I remember a very successful entrepreneur. She had one of the biggest photography kind of stores in our hometown in Iran, and at the peak of it, over 23 employees, and now she came here right away, started a real estate empire, and now has around 30,000 followers and has done over $1 million in revenue and profit actually on a yearly basis. So, um, kind of worked with her for 4 years of my life, right after high school, and actually in grade 12, 11 as well, and it kinda dripped the mindset onto me in the 3rd year of computer science. I started my first startup, and from there, I failed, went back to it again in the 2nd one, 3rd one, and now I'm on my 4th startup, which actually I finally saw some success. Like in the past 3, I just burned like over $10,000, but now saw some success. And actually, in the 3rd year, I started my podcast as well. It's just a matter of being effective with your time and not wasting it, because we all have a limited time in this world. And um, yeah, just learning as much as possible through different experiences. That's really my motto that I go with.
And would you say, I guess, that, the drive runs in the family?
The drive, I guess so, yeah, I do potentially got some of the DNA from her, but, um, yeah, it's just doing doing things, like, if you're just scrolling all day, obviously, you're not gonna get stuff done, but being effective with the time is the most valuable skill to have.
No, absolutely. So, you know, how are you, I guess, using your computer science background within your startup or side projects? Like, what skills ended up mattering the most once you were on your own?
So, computer science didn't really come in there. And I've honestly changed my mind a lot over the past 6 months. I think I've had the biggest growth over the past 6 months since my graduation. And it really comes down to building a business is coming down to having a team around yourself, because you alone can't achieve like you can probably build $1 million company, but with a team of 10, you can probably build $100 million company. So it just the leverage of it, is exponential, and that's a very big skill that I've learned. Another one is to be, um, focused and not trying to do everything at the same time. Um, Being focused on one subject matter, get it done, and always look for, okay, what's next? What's next on my agenda? Like step by step, you're not gonna build that company overnight. So just moving one step at a time and chipping away, it has the compounding effect, which I've learned a lot as well. And in my computer science skills come in handy in a way that I think logically and technically about things, because emotions can really sway your decisions in a way that I don't think it's beneficial in the business world. So, um, and also my job currently is I'm a manager at this kind of film architectural company currently. I'm building them AI agents. So that's a skill that always will be with me forever. And I'm always grateful to have that bachelor's.
Absolutely. No, you bring up a lot of good points. I just want to bring it back to one thing that you mentioned about having a team around you. My question is what factors, I guess, are the most important in deciding who you surround yourself with?
So there is that generic, probably you've heard it 1,000 times. The top 5 people that you surround yourself with will determine the next 10 years of your life and who you will become in the future. So I try to surround myself with people that are effective with their time, that are hungry to learn, and kind of like compatible in a way that we grow together and the conversations that we have are for the betterness of our future. It's not just like surface level, hey, you see that show the other day or Love Island or just kind of the BS that most average people speak about. Like we talk about how to grow, like what we've learned and just kind of bounce off each other ideas. Like that's who I love surrounding myself with because that's how you grow in the other sense. Just talking about nonsense will just waste the time, and I think the time is the most important asset in your life, so I try to be effective with this asset.
No, absolutely. It's super important, like you said, to whatever environment you put yourself in is whatever is going to come out of it. So, it's always good to build those good habits and surround yourself with those good people. And, that's how you build that foundation for success. I totally agree. Um, Speaking of success, I guess you mentioned that you've had 3 previous startups to the 4th where you've now found success. What has been the biggest challenge of trying to build something yourself instead of joining what you would consider an established company? Has anything surprised you?
A lot has surprised me. I mean, if we wanna dive into that, it's a whole chapter of worms that, I don't think we do have time to go over all the nitty-gritty details, but yeah, at the beginning, I thought that I can't start anything by myself. I was like, okay, I need a co-founder. I need someone alongside me so we can go to this together. But after having three partnerships with co-founders, I realized that it was always the case that I was in the business more than them and we were kind of 50-50 and it just didn't make sense. So this company I started by myself and it was the best decision because I realized I work better being alone and figuring everything out together. So then I have no one to blame but myself if it fails or not. And so far it hasn't. I have clients and it's profitable and all that good stuff. So one thing is know your character and it's different for everyone. Like someone would love to have a co-founder and they thrive in that ecosystem. But for me, it wasn't the case. Another thing is building the team and incorporating the vision into every single one of them. Because if you're bringing a team member on, like you want it to be in a way that they're sold on the mission and they're in the same boat with you going and sailing through this business, which is a freaking insanely tough world. So at the beginning, I was like, yeah, just come on, I'll give you money and let's do this. And they were not incentivized in the right way, but um, there's been a lot of details in that as well, but yeah, just kind of bringing the mission and always fostering that culture that we are in this together, and if the company doesn't succeed, we won't succeed, and just reminding of that, just the communication skills has been so valuable.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the most valuable things that you could possibly learn in today's world, how to navigate interpersonal connections and deal with certain individuals and understand when you need to speak up and when you need to, I guess, keep your mouth closed, you know? It's really important to learn, those cues and how to interact socially. That's honestly one of my biggest takeaways as well. But moving on to the next question, I know that you're very busy. A lot of younger people, a lot of Gen Zers are building multiple income streams instead of sticking to what you would consider the traditional 9 to 5 path. Real estate startups, podcasts, anything that you could possibly imagine. You're doing a little bit of everything. What does that mix look like for you and why does it work?
The mix, what does it look like for me? So I haven't figured that out entirely as I'm only 24. I think life has so much more than what my knowledge is, and I don't want to speak about the subject because of the grand scheme and I haven't fully figured it out. But I think being in media, I really enjoy like having podcasts. I've met my best friends through episodes that I just didn't know them, and we came and spoke in person for 2 hours, and the rest is history. So I think podcasting is an avenue. As I'm an extrovert, it kind of opens a lot of doors, and it keeps doing so. Um, and multiple income streams is definitely very, very, very important, because if you put all your eggs in one basket, then if something happens, that's game over. So I'm also on the side creating a bot on Forex platforms so that it just trades for me. Um, and that one will be live in exactly 4 days actually. So yeah, I think just it comes really back to being effective with your time and strategizing for your future. Like yeah, I believe that's what's going to look like. And my life may be completely and utterly different in a year or two, but as of right now, um, I have clients for my company working a full time, and I run my podcast. I have a my Forex bot, which is going to be live very soon, and also I am also dedicating 10 hours a week to another company as their head of marketing in a fractional sense. So there's a lot on the plate, and maybe not much time for a lady or those kinds of interactions with friends much, but that's the price you have to pay sometimes.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned success now, which leads into my final question for you. When you look ahead, beyond the current moment, look ahead to 5 years. What does success look like for you? Is it scaling a startup, financial independence, creative freedom? Like, what are you actually chasing?
That's an amazing question. And I believe success for me, at least initially, is financial freedom. My goal is to by before 30 to reach $10 million revenue. And then I think after that is to enjoy the ride. I think we're on this world to enjoy the life because it's very short. You may have to sacrifice a few years, which I'm doing currently, but um, life is long, and money, you're not going to bring any monetary assets or anything to your grave after you pass away. So the core values of being a good human with good values, being honest, having good characters, and providing for your loved ones, I think really comes down to the basics. So I strive to do that as much as possible, while also for my short-term goal of reaching the financial freedom that I can provide more value to my loved ones as well.
Absolutely. Sadra, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. It's greatly appreciated. And I hope you take care. And I wish you the best of success, with all of your future endeavors.
Thanks, Quinlan, for you as well. I wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. That was Sadra Korvash, a young entrepreneur carving out his own lane in an evolving tech landscape. His experience highlights a wider Gen Z shift towards independence, adaptability, and building a career on your own terms. This has been For the Record on BCIT News. I'm Quinlan Curry. Thank you for listening.